Joe's not happy, and he's got some sort of warning for the UFC president. You know what? Let's save the warning part for later and see what's got Rogan so mad that he made headlines. Of course, it's Ngannou's release, and honestly, a lot of people feel the same way. Joe's mad as he believes that following Francis Ngannou's departure from the UFC, fans will be denied access to some of the best heavyweight contests. After leaving the UFC, Ngannou had his heavyweight belt removed, and it was kinda obvious that UFC 285 was gonna bring Jon Jones and Cyril Gane to now compete for the vacant title. The shock of Ngannou's UFC departure can still be felt across the sport, and Jones is among many who can relate to Ngannou's decision to take a strong stand against the UFC in an effort to land better contracts. On a side note, it'd be funny if it's Jake Paul behind the scenes. Didn't the kid want the same thing? Imagine. Anyway, I think I speak for everyone when I say that Ngannou versus Jones was something the fans had been pumped to see. Like, come on, it was gonna be the heavyweight title fight. Not just that, but it was gonna be the biggest one in UFC history. But now that Ngannou and the UFC have formally broken off their relationship, the fight exists only in the realm of promotional speculation. Joe's right. This is probably the biggest UFC tragedy to happen. Talking about sad things, let's see what else Joe had to express. He's not just mad, he's upset. Weighing in on the whole thing in a recent episode of his podcast, Rogan stated why he is upset over Ngannou's departure from the UFC. He said that he was way too disappointed, as he is every time a champion takes a departure. Don't you all agree? Because who likes it when a top player leaves without taking his W? But hey, if you look at it from the angle that Francis has always kinda wanted to explore boxing,
even than we hoped. Better. Wow. Sensational. A minute 10 into round number 11.
Who would know it would go like this?
things may be in his favor. So, like, congratulations, I guess? But again, Rogan's more upset because the fighter had an amazing career.
He's fighting at range, Arlovski fires, just misses. Ngannou comes over the top of the left and boom, beautiful follow-up to his counter with that right hand.
And the UFC may have deprived the fans of possibly the greatest fight there could have been. Joe added that him being upset didn't mean he cared any less about the Cyril versus Jon fight. It's still a great bout, don't get me wrong. Just, maybe not as good as Ngannou taking on Jones could have been. Anywho, Ngannou planned to sign his next UFC deal after 2 fights with Jones and 3 with Stipe Miocic.
Stipe back to his feet, eats another uppercut. Nice counter right from Miocic, who is now down and out. Francis Ngannou can finally call himself the greatest heavyweight in the world.
But now he's considering his upcoming combat sports endeavors, which might include a move into the boxing ring. Soon after Ngannou won the championship at UFC 260,
Undisputed UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Francis.
talks of a battle between Jones and Ngannou began in 2021. However, the fight was cancelled, and Ngannou went on to fight Gane at UFC 270 instead.
Final 10 seconds. And it looks as though Ngannou will end the fight in a relatively dominant position.
It's still sad that we were on the verge of witnessing 2 of the greatest ever fighters going against each other. Moving on, remember the whole Rogan warning Dana thing I mentioned at the start? That's more of a don't repeat the same mistake twice. So I'm hoping you remember the aftermath of Paddy the Baddy versus Jared Gordon.
Forward. Keep throwing those outside leg kicks. Well, we said coming into this fight that this was going to be the most difficult test of Paddy Pimblett's career, and so far.
And Joe straight up has asked the UFC president and Hunter Campbell not to do what they did at UFC 282. Only if he gave this warning when Petr Yan was allegedly robbed against Sugar O'Malley. We all know Joe Rogan has strict standards for just laws and rules in combat sports. And he loves the sport when he goes out of his way to promote it on many platforms. As his podcast grows more and more, Rogan talked in a recent episode about the fallout from the contentious UFC 282 match that many fans thought was poorly judged. And for ruining a contender's night, the officials received most of the blame. Most of the backlash was because of Dana's reaction after the Scouse was announced as the winner. Why the reaction? Well, that was due to White's strong relationship with the Liverpool native, and fans weren't the only ones who noticed this. Rogan was also shocked when he saw Dana rejoicing. In the Joe Rogan Experience, episode 134, which has now been deleted, Joe was with Bilal Muhammad when he gave suggestions on how to to officiate a match properly. The podcaster/commentator believed that there are several reasons why match officials make oopsies. However, certain errors might be more than oopsies and have a big chance to make or break a career. And Rogan's not on board with that. And if you've watched the clip, you may have noticed the sheer happiness on Dana's face. Okay, Dana is somewhat understandable. No one understands why the former Fear Factor anchor was so happy. Rogan said that too. Why Campbell? And why was he celebrating when Patty won?
All three judges score this contest 29-28 for the winner by unanimous decision, Patty!
Bilal also made it plain that he wanted his friend Jared Gordon to triumph over Paddy Pimblett, and frankly, who didn't? It was more like that Gordon deserved the win and how an error may have changed everything for him. While we're on the topic of fighters being in a bad place, Rogan also feels like he's helpless. We all know that Joe's not opposed to calling out errors. Even if it's an error on his own part, he makes sure people know. Just like the time of his notorious altercation with referee Yamasaki. He again didn't defend Dana for his alleged match fixing, where many fans still have a belief that the UFC boss had placed a wager on Pimblett to triumph. Muhammad was also disappointed that his diligent buddy wasn't able to reap the rewards of all the seeds he had sown in practice because of a few judges. It's actually really sad, although Gordon didn't create much of a scene, but such a thing made Yan almost quit the competition. White did previously propose a remedy for poor judgment, which is certain to enrage several UFC competitors. Fans of MMA continue to question if it is appropriate for fighters to make friends with promoters. Let's see how that impacts the sport in general. Hopping back onto the Francis Ngannou thingy, John Jones shared his regret. I mean, come on, you'd be disappointed too if you were one of the best, and your chance to be in a historical fight was taken away from you. Just like that. Jones has expressed his feelings about how he isn't really happy about the whole thing. Obviously, if it was up to him, he'd have liked Francis over Cyril. As you know, the former is the more intimidating one. Plus, you know, he's bigger in the US, and taking the belt from him would have been more fruitful. It'd have been a different sort of event. He added that he had the utmost respect for Francis, and he can't wait to see how the Cameroonian is gonna do in his future endeavors. He related the situation to his time as a lightweight.
Now he's going for Kimura.
It is all over! John Jones remains the UFC light heavyweight champion!
And how he missed so much of his time just because he was unhappy with the pay. All in all, it worked out for him, did it not? He encouraged Francis on his journey and blessed him with a lot of good wishes. And this is to whoever and whichever company might sign him, you guys are in for something good. On top of that, Jones is very sure that he's gonna cross paths with the Cameroonian at some point in the future. As we all know, Dana does deliver and gives fans what they want. And when the talk is about the biggest fight in UFC history, we gotta get the walk too, no? Let us know who you think is gonna prevail in March. See you in the next one.